The force I'm talking about is consistency. And more specifically, the decision to force yourself to be consistent when every fiber of your being wants to quit, when the voice in your head says just this once won't matter, when the easy path seems so much more appealing than the disciplined path. You see, most people think success is complicated. They think it requires some special formula, some secret knowledge that only the successful possess. But I'm here to tell you that success is actually quite simple. Not easy, mind you, but simple. Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. And failure. Failure is nothing more than a few errors in judgment repeated every day. The difference between success and failure is so small, so subtle, that most people miss it entirely. It's not the big, dramatic moments that shape our lives. It's the small, seemingly insignificant choices we make every single day. The choice to read instead of watch television. The choice to save instead of spend. The choice to exercise instead of sit on the couch. The choice to be disciplined instead of lazy. These small choices repeated consistently over time create the foundation upon which all success is built. But here's what most people don't understand about consistency: it's not natural. Human beings are not naturally consistent. We're creatures of emotion, of impulse, of instant gratification. We want what we want, and we want it now. Consistency requires us to override our natural tendencies, to force ourselves to do what we know we should do, especially when we don't feel like doing it. And that's where the magic happens. When you force yourself to be consistent, you're not just developing a habit. You're developing character. You're training your mind to overcome obstacles. You're building the mental muscle that will serve you in every area of your life. Because here's the truth: how you do anything is how you do everything. If you can't be consistent in the small things, you'll never be consistent in the big things. Let me tell you about the power of compound interest, not just in money, but in life. When you save $1, that dollar earns interest. But it's not just the dollar that earns interest. The interest earns interest too. And over time, something magical happens. The compound effect kicks in and your money begins to grow exponentially. The same principle applies to every area of your life. When you read for 30 minutes every day, you're not just gaining knowledge for those 30 minutes. You're developing the habit of learning. You're expanding your vocabulary. You're understanding your ability to think and communicate. And each day builds upon the last. After a year, you haven't just read for 180 hours. You've transformed your mind. You've become a different person. You've become someone who values learning, someone who seeks knowledge, someone who grows. But most people never experience this compound effect because they're not consistent. They read for a week, then stop for a month. They exercise for a few days, then quit for a few weeks. They start a savings plan, then abandon it when they want to buy something. They rob themselves of the very thing that could transform their lives, the power of consistency. I've learned in my years of studying successful people that they all share one common trait. They've learned to do what needs to be done, whether they feel like it or not. They've learned to force themselves to be consistent. They understand that discipline weighs ounces, but regret weighs tons. They'd rather carry the weight of discipline today than the weight of regret tomorrow. You see, discipline is the bridge between thought and accomplishment, between inspiration and achievement, between necessity and productivity. Without discipline, we're like a ship without a rudder, blown about by every wind of circumstance. With discipline, we become the captain of our own ship, charting our course toward our desired destination. But let me be clear about something: forcing yourself to be consistent doesn't mean you have to enjoy it. It doesn't mean you have to feel motivated every day. In fact, if you wait for motivation, you'll wait forever. Motivation comes and goes like the weather. It's unreliable, unpredictable, and ultimately unnecessary. What you need is not motivation. What you need is discipline. Discipline is doing what you need to do when you need to do it, whether you feel like it or not. Discipline is the ultimate form of self-respect. It's saying to yourself, I care enough about my future to sacrifice my present comfort. It's understanding that the price of discipline is always less than the price of regret. Think about it this way: every day you're either moving toward your goals or away from them. There's no neutral. There's no standing still. Every choice you make is either an investment in your future or withdrawal from it. Every day you choose consistency, you're making a deposit in the bank of your future success. Every day you choose inconsistency, you're making a withdrawal from that same bank. And here's something else most people don't understand. Consistency doesn't require perfection. It requires commitment. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be persistent. You don't have to do everything right. You just have to keep doing something right. Progress, not perfection, is the goal. I've seen people destroy their own momentum by demanding perfection from themselves. They have one bad day, one moment of weakness, one lapse in judgment, and they throw in the towel. They think that because they're not perfect, they're failures. But perfection is not the standard. Consistency is the standard. And consistency means getting back up every time you fall down. The most successful people I know are not the ones who never fail. They're the ones who fail the most because they try the most. They understand that failure is not the opposite of success. It's a stepping stone to success. They know that every failure teaches them something, makes them stronger, prepares them for the next challenge. But they also know that the key to turning failure into success is consistency. They back up. They try again. They refuse to let a temporary setback become a permanent defeat. They understand that success is not about avoiding failure. It's about persisting through failure. Now let me share with you the secret of developing consistency. It's not about willpower, though willpower helps. It's not about motivation, though motivation can be useful. The secret of consistency is systems. You need to create systems that make consistency easier than inconsistency. If you want to read more, don't rely on remembering to read. Create a system. Put the book on your nightstand. Set a reminder on your phone. Create a reading schedule. Make it easier to read than not to read. If you want to exercise more, don't rely on feeling motivated. Create a system. Lay out your workout clothes the night before. Schedule your workouts like appointments. Find a workout partner who will hold you accountable. Make it easier to exercise than not to exercise. Systems remove the decision-making from consistency. When you have a system, you don't have to decide whether to do something. You just have to follow the system. And the beautiful thing about systems is that they work even when you don't feel like working. They carry you through the days when motivation is low and energy is lacking. But here's what happens when you force yourself to be consistent. Everything falls into place. Not immediately, not dramatically, but gradually, inevitably. The compound effect kicks in. Your habits become automatic. Your discipline becomes natural. Your character becomes strong. And slowly but surely you begin to see results. You begin to see that the person who reads 30 minutes every day is more knowledgeable than the person who doesn't. You begin to see that the person who exercises regularly is healthier than the person who doesn't. You begin to see that the person who saves money consistently has more financial security than the person who doesn't. You begin to see that consistency works. And once you see that consistency works in one area of your life, you begin to apply it to other areas. You begin to understand that the same principles that work in health work in wealth, the same principles that work in relationships work in business, the same principles that work in personal development work in professional development. You begin to see that life is not random, success is not accidental, failure is not inevitable. You begin to understand that you have more control over your destiny than you ever imagined. You begin to realize that you can literally design your life by designing your daily habits. But let me warn you about something. The beginning is always the hardest. When you first start forcing yourself to be consistent, it feels unnatural. It feels difficult. It feels like you're swimming upstream. Your mind will resist. Your body will rebel. Your emotions will protest. This is normal. This is expected. This is part of the process. The key is to start small and build momentum. Don't try to change everything at once. Don't try to be perfect from day one. Choose one area of your life where you want to be more consistent and focus on that. Master that. Make it automatic. Then move on to the next area. Remember, you're not just developing a habit, you're developing the habit of developing habits. You're not just becoming consistent in one area, you're becoming a consistent person. And once you become a consistent person, everything becomes possible. I want you to understand something. The person you become in the process of forcing yourself to be consistent is more valuable than anything you achieve through that consistency. The knowledge you gain, the character you develop, the confidence you build, the self-respect you earn, these are the real rewards of consistency. You see, when you force yourself to be consistent, you're sending a message to yourself and to the world. You're saying, I am reliable, I am dependable, I am someone who follows through. I am someone who keeps my word, especially the word I give to myself. And this message becomes your identity. This identity becomes your reality. People begin to see you differently. More importantly, you begin to see yourself differently. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to believe in yourself. You begin to know with absolute certainty that if you commit to something, you'll follow through. And this knowledge, this self-trust, this confidence becomes the foundation for everything else you want to achieve. But consistency is not just about personal achievement. It's about personal integrity. It's about being true to your word, especially the word you give to yourself. Every time you say you're going to do something and then don't do it, you damage your relationship with yourself. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you weaken your self-trust. Every time you quit when things get difficult, you reinforce the belief that you're a quitter. But every time you force yourself to be consistent, you strengthen that relationship. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you build self-trust. Every time you persist when things get difficult, you reinforce the belief that you're someone who finishes what you start. And here's the beautiful thing, this self-trust, this confidence, this knowledge that you can count on yourself spills over into every area of your life. When you know you can be consistent in one area, you know you can be consistent in any area. When you know you can force yourself to do what needs to be done, you know you can accomplish anything you set your mind to. The ripple effects of consistency are extraordinary. When you're consistent with your health, you have more energy. When you have more energy, you're more productive. When you're more productive, you achieve more. When you achieve more, you feel better about yourself. When you feel better about yourself, you take better care of your health. The cycle continues, each element reinforcing the others. The same pattern applies to every area of your life. When you're consistent with your learning, you become more knowledgeable. When you're more knowledgeable, you make better decisions. When you make better decisions, you get better results. When you get better results, you're motivated to learn more. The cycle continues, each element reinforcing the others. When you're consistent with your relationships, you build trust. When you build trust, you deepen connections. When you deepen connections, you experience more love and support. When you experience more love and support, you're motivated to invest more in your relationships. The cycle continues, each element reinforcing the others. This is what I mean when I say that when you force yourself to be consistent, everything falls into place. It's not magic, it's momentum. It's not luck, it's logic. It's the natural result of applying consistent effort over time. But let me share with you one of the most important insights I've learned about consistency. It's not about being consistent for a day, a week, or even a month. It's about being consistent for a lifetime. It's about making consistency a way of life, not just a temporary strategy. The people who achieve extraordinary success are not the ones who are consistent for a short period of time. They're the ones who are consistent for a long period of time. They understand that success is not a destination, it's a way of traveling. They understand that consistency is not a strategy, it's a character trait. And here's what's beautiful about making consistency a way of life, it gets easier over time. The habits that were once difficult become automatic. The discipline that once required tremendous effort becomes second nature. The consistency that once felt forced becomes natural. You begin to understand that consistency is not about forcing yourself to do things you don't want to do. It's about becoming the kind of person who naturally does the things that successful people do. It's about aligning your actions with your values, your daily habits with your long-term goals, your momentary choices with your ultimate destiny. When you reach this point, you realize that you're not forcing yourself to be consistent anymore. You're choosing to be consistent because it's who you are. You're not disciplining yourself to do the right things. You're expressing your true nature by doing the right things. You're not working against your natural tendencies. You've changed your natural tendencies. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, patience, and persistence. But it does happen, and when it does, you'll understand what I mean when I say that everything falls into place. Your health improves, your relationships deepen, your finances stabilize, your career advances, your personal growth accelerates, your confidence soars. But more importantly, you become the person you were meant to be. You become someone who can be counted on, someone who follows through, someone who finishes what they start. You become someone who doesn't just dream about success, you become someone who creates success through consistent daily action. And here's the final truth I want to share with you. Once you understand the power of consistency, once you experience the compound effect, once you see how everything falls into place when you force yourself to be consistent, you'll never want to go back to the old way of living. You'll never want to go back to being inconsistent, unreliable, unpredictable. Because you'll have tasted something better. You'll have experienced the satisfaction of keeping your word to yourself. You'll have felt the confidence that comes from knowing you can count on yourself. You'll have seen the results that come from persistent, consistent effort over time. And once you've tasted that, once you've experienced that, once you've seen that, everything else pales in comparison. The temporary pleasure of giving up becomes insignificant compared to the lasting satisfaction of following through. The momentary relief of quitting becomes meaningless compared to the enduring joy of persisting. So I challenge you today, force yourself to be consistent. Choose one area of your life where you want to see improvement and commit to being consistent in that area for the next 90 days. Not perfect, just consistent. Not flawless, just faithful. Not extraordinary, just steady. And watch what happens. Watch how everything begins to fall into place. Watch how your confidence grows. Watch how your results improve. Watch how your life transforms. Watch how you become the person you were meant to be. Because that's what consistency does. It doesn't just change what you do, it changes who you are. It doesn't just improve your results, it improves your character. It doesn't just affect one area of your life, it affects every area of your life.